Welcome back to Bitter Swede Garage. Speaking of garages, I'm here in my garage, trying to find the right tools to start the next project, as they say in Canada. So, some of you may have seen in that little teaser video I did today, actually, that I'm going to start working on the steering. Here she is. So, I'm going to start by removing the steering. I'm going to see if you can kind of see a hint of it down there. I'm going to see if the electric power steering will fit this. I'm pretty sure it won't, at least not right away. I got to figure out how to pull this off. Hopefully it's loose enough where it'll just pop off. But we'll see if the shaft is similar size. What I'd like to do is just use the that half of the steering module or unit, whatever you want to call it, and mount it yay-ish, somewhere around in there. Because if I could do that, it would save me from having to have two linkages, and they're not cheap. But anyway, if I have to, I have to. Whatever. Need to be safe, I guess. So stick around and I'll show you the process. Start by cranking the window open. Get a little oxygen flowing through here. Thankfully it's not 50,000 degrees yet here in Ridgecrest, but it will be very soon. Oh, a couple other things I have coming. This box of goodies. I've got the windshield gasket for the, not windshield, sorry, the back window gasket. Don't have the glass yet because it was back ordered, but it's coming. I also got some weather stripping for the door windows. Not that I'm too concerned about water going down inside, but should keep the glass from rattling around when I'm driving. Alright, enough procrastinating. Let's see what size first try. Not really. Must be 3/4. It is. Wow, that wasn't hard at all. Unless it's just spinning. No, we're good. This really is a massive steering wheel. But having this little guy on here, that's a lifesaver. Okay, no washer. Good. I think the looseness of the steering wheel was just the actual... Nope. Nice. That was way too easy. Well, it's not the right spline count, I could tell you right now. However, I'd be okay just jamming it on the other thing. Speaking of which, let me grab that and show you what I'm working with. Alright, this is the EPS, or electronic steering... Oh, that's not right. What's the S for? Electronic steering unit. ESU, I'll call it that. Electronic power steering, EPS, that's what it is. Alright, so this is the input, or where the steering wheel would go. Not sure what this plastic piece is for. Probably an insulator. This is the motor where the magic happens. So this just adds a little assistance, and it only comes on when you actually turn. So whenever you provide input, it will maximize the output here. That actually looks very similar. Wish I could do it backwards, but I can't. Anyway, Prius also has a similar setup that actually comes with some U-joints and things, so maybe that's a better deal. Put it in the comments, you know. Maybe I made a mistake, but this one was cheaper than the Prius model. And it came with the module, so you have to have this with the motor, otherwise it won't work. So as far as getting this thing to work, where is the plug-in? Okay, so on this little guy right here, the upper right pin is the one that receives 12 volt. So if you turn your car on, you should have 12 volt keyed power to that prong right there, pin, whatever, top, I may have said top right, top left pin. And then this wire here, it's just an extension. That will be your main wire right to the battery. And I'll put a fuse in there, maybe 20 amp or something, maybe 40. Look pretty beefy. Anyway, cool thing about this is if it ever fails, power goes out, whatever, it reverts back to 1946 technology. So you won't lose your steering, you'll just lose your arms from trying to steer the thing. But anyway, that's that. Let me pull the steering wheel out and see what it looks like. I already know this isn't going to fit, but just because I'm curious, let's see how far off it is. It's actually right in there. Oh, don't mind the wind. One could almost jam that on there. But anyway, I think this is the Hyundai splines are like 20 something, and this is like a 42. I counted them at one time, I don't remember. But the right thing to do probably would be to cut that off and weld it onto here. My welding skills are not great. In fact, not good at all. So I may not do that. But it sure would be nice if I could just mount this right here. Maybe with the motor more behind the dash, like so. So I'm not raking my shins or knees against it. That'd be nice. Oh, that bearing's about shot. That's the problem. All right, well, anyway, let's stop procrastinating and get to tearing apart. The shaft here goes all the way down to the steering box, and I don't see any bolts. So I don't know if it's welded on. I hope not, because I don't feel like cutting it off. I don't feel like taking off the whole unit. Hopefully not. Hopefully I can just remove these two bolts and this shaft slides out of the steering box. But let's check it out. It's always best to put the bolt back where you found it so you don't lose it. I lose these things all the time. All the time. Why is that not threading on nicely? What is the deal? Maybe it doesn't go to this. That makes me feel safe. Alright, whatever. Let's see. Did Andrew use metric or standard? We're going to go with the trusty 9/16. No. 1F. Yes. Wrong wrench. Okay. Lefty loosey. Not sure if this is gonna spin. Yeah, she's just spinning. Let me find another half. 1/2. Use the big guy for this side. And see if I can reach in here with this one. Feels fairly loose. Just take that off of there. Thankfully it's not a nylon type of nut, so it just spins off. It almost looks like somebody used 10mm sockets right here. That's where they went. pretty loosey-goosey. I feel like that's just gonna slide out, which works just fine for me. Slip that on there. Only the finest hardware. Looks like, oh, washer. Maybe it came from Home Depot. What do they have in Laramie? Home Depot? Oh, that's actually loose. Sweet. I don't even need the tools, just my hands. Nice. All right, take these brackets off. Try not to cut the wires. Let's see if I can grab the washer. Nope, they always fall. Every time. Oh wow, that is just sliding right out of there. Fantastic. All right. I don't want to have to undo wiring, so I'm just gonna pause, grab a screwdriver, maybe some wire clippers, and release the wiring from the steering shaft here. Never trust a man who won't use zip ties. So much easier. Do they often break and fail? Yes. But this is a temporary solution, alright? Don't get your undies in a bind. Loosen this guy up. Actually, let's just loosen this guy right here. Another handy thing to have, a hose clamp. And I don't have enough slack, so we'll just remove one of these, actually both of them, because you have to. This is a pretty cool unit, standalone turn signal / hazards. And let's see here. Love flathead screws. So simple. Okay. Put that back there so we don't lose it, which I will. That's not going anywhere. It looks to be free, so let's look under the hood and see what's going on at the steering box. Alright, can you see in there? I can't really see in there. Let's adjust this. Let's put it over the motor. It's nice and cool now, so it should be fine. Oh, for Pete's sake. Well, that's going to have to work. Can you see my hand here? Yes, okay. It looks like this was just sliding out. Oh, that's just the shaft moving, not the actual steering bit. Does that whole thing need to come out? Surely not. I'm wondering if I give it a yank. Make sure that bolt's on. I know some of you are watching this and be like, you can't take it apart that way. Okay, maybe so. So do I leave it and just cut what I need? Maybe. That might be the easiest thing. I really don't want to take the steering box out, just because that requires work. More work than I want to do. Let's see. Well, let me do a quick Google and see if there's a way to release that steering shaft. After doing some Googling, that was never going to work. So the inner shaft is welded to the worm gear that's inside the steering box, and the only way to get it out is to remove the steering box from the frame. Let me show you what's going on with the box mounted to the frame, because I foresee this being a problem. All right, if you look here, there's 2 bolts, probably a U bolt or something that's keeping the steering box held up against the frame here. And then the steering shaft from the box goes through to the pitman arm here. I can see that pitman arm being a pain in the butt to get off. It doesn't look like it's been off in a very long time. Maybe someone tried to get it off. This washer is all split. So a little bit more work than I thought. So either I cut it where it is, or I attempt to take the box out and then cut it. Either way, I gotta cut it. What's easier? The right thing to do would be to take it out. The not right thing to do would be to leave it and cut it. I don't even know if I have a tool to cut it while it's in the truck. And once I do that, you're done. You know, there's no going back. Well, I mean, if I ruin it, then I do have to take everything out. So I'm back to square one. Things to ponder. All right, so what's going on? So after looking at it some more, so there's the steering box down there. In order for me to remove the box, I gotta remove the pitman arm, yes, but then I gotta slide it out from the frame, and the only way to do that is to remove the exhaust. I don't even know if it's gonna clear with the engine there, so I don't feel like doing all that. But here I'm doing a mock-up of how this would be. This thing weighs like 50 pounds. Maybe not quite that much, but you get the idea. Anyway, it needs to sit about that high, which means I need to cut. Can y'all see my finger? Yeah. I need to cut like here, and where the shaft ends down here. So the first cut would be on the bottom, just so I can slide this outer shaft off. And then make sure I leave enough of the other shaft to not only connect the bottom of this unit to the steering shaft, but also make sure I have enough length to attach the top. I think the only way I'm going to get the steering wheel to work is if I get some kind of coupler. And I know there's other people that have done this, and I just need to look it up. But thankfully this shaft will fit inside of this one. It's just slightly smaller, so that will help with keeping things lined up. But I'm still going to have to connect the inner shaft of this to this. So I may need to take it somewhere and have them welded on maybe. It is a straight shot. I don't have to worry about doing any kind of bends, which is nice. So once I get it apart, I would need to have a coupler for the shaft, which is not going to be just a round shaft, because once I cut it, it's not going to have splines or anything. So maybe like a decoupler on one end to whatever spline count this is. I think this might be a fairly common 3/4 diameter shaft output. I need to count these splines again. I wrote it down. Actually, I put it in my phone. Look that up, see if I can find a coupler with that, and then a D-link, and then I can just, you know, connect the two using something like that. Or maybe I get crazy and think of something else, but we'll see how this goes. Let's take some measurements. Rough, very rough estimates. Looks to be approximately 1 foot 1 inch exactly from tip to tip. Yeah, that's not the right way to do it. Now, if I end up with a little extra, that's fine. The steering wheel, it's already up in my face as it is, but yeah, it is almost exactly 1 foot 1 inch. Let's see where that would put us on the shaft. So if we take 1 foot 1 inch off of here, it's actually quite a bit. Now that's if I use this whole shaft that's already on the unit here, which I kind of wanted to do, I also want to be able to slide the shaft of the new unit inside of this shaft. But either way, I got to cut 1 foot 1 inch from here. I don't want to get too close to that because I don't want the module and the motor, electric motor, to interfere with the pedals or my feet. I think it's okay if I bring it up. I also need to make sure, like I said, I have space here. Calculating misfortune. Alright, this is roughly where the controls need to be. I should say the module and the electric motor. Of course, they'll be rotated up behind the dash so you don't see it as much. But I'm thinking that's where it needs to be cut. Right in that area. Yay me! Oh, there's plenty of grease there. I can just mark with my pliers here. Gonna use a little degreaser, aka my screwdriver. That is roughly where it needs to be cut. Where would the grease even be coming from? Get a good scratch in there. Probably from the top of the steering shaft. It's not really a gasket holding the grease in, and this thing is full of grease. Why? I'm not sure, because there aren't any bearings except for the top and the bottom. Actually, I don't think there's even any bearings down there because the shaft goes into the steering box, like I said before. Alright, I'm going to tape this off so I know where I'm cutting. And measure again to make sure I'm not cutting it too short, because that would be bad. And go from there. Who needs tape when the shaft rotates? So I'll stick it here. Layer of grease. Look at that. Off by a micromillimeter. Don't think that's going to matter. Of course, now my pen is caked in grease. Fantastic. This is probably going to be quite loud. And hopefully this death wheel isn't the death of me. Spin it down, yes. It's actually cutting pretty easily. Into the flesh of my arm. Great. We're almost there. Can't quite tell. I am going to get some glasses because sparks have hit my eyelids a few times. I'm back with safety. Try not to light the grease on fire. What are we doing here? I think I got off track slightly. Get there. Let's see how we're doing. Oh, she bent. It's a good sign. She broke free. I already foresee this being a huge mess. Now, try not to slide the whole thing off. Come on, you were just broke free, buddy. One little tiny hang up. There we go. That is a ton of grease. You can see the pipe wasn't that thick. I don't even know what that is. I have to get my caliper out. But that's done. Now, whether I want to cut this way, I think I need to cut enough to where I have enough left to where I can, probably what I'm going to do is buy a non-spline hookup. I forget the company that makes them, but anyway, a steering coupler that is smooth, that'll fit on this. I believe it's 3/4, but let's find the, oh, where's my little measuring thing? Hold on, don't go anywhere. There we go. Digital caliper. It no longer digitizes because it has no batteries. But at least I can get an idea of how thick this is. All right. Doesn't seem to be going anywhere. It's almost like 19 millimeter. I'll have to calculate that out to know how many inches that is, but I think it is close to 3/4. It's almost right on the 20. If I go to 20, that's a little loose. 19 it is. Bam. Now I gotta clean my calipers. Pete's sake. Let's get some of this grease off, shall we? It's all just gonna come off in a big pool. Get back in there. Where do you think you're going? They widen my grip here. That worked fairly well. Let's see if I get the rest of it. I wonder how old this grease is. I would say it's as old as the truck, but I don't think it is because it looks like it's been worked on before. Could be 40 years though. Who knows? I mean, it looks still good to me. Alright. I can already see that I'm probably, let's see if y'all can see this. Probably gonna have to end up putting a bearing in here. Possibly, more than likely, just to keep it from rocking, especially when if I use a coupler, depending on what type of coupler I use. If I use a solid coupler, it shouldn't be an issue, but if I don't, there'll be too much shaking going on. I also noticed that there's quite a bit of play. I mean, I think I saw that before, so let's see if I can tighten that up in the gearbox. But what I'm going to do is measure an inch up, maybe more than an inch. Let me see how long these other couplers are. Looks like they might be 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, and then whoopsh. All right, looks to be 1.25 inches. Where's my marker? There we go. I wonder if this will even work on this since it's greasy. Let's see. Let's just see here. You know, I'm probably going to watch this later and be like, what was I thinking? However, you don't know until you try, right? Alright, so... Oop, it is marking. Nicely done. And where's my cap? On the end of my pin. Alright. Tape. Take off the gloves, because they are full of 80 weight, or whatever kind of grease that is. Found some red duct tape. Why red? It's because of what I had. So we'll be cutting. If I can see what I'm doing here. Actually, let's do this. Let's make this tape smaller. Sure. Something like that. And make sure it lines up square on the line. I mean, that looks like plenty of surface, don't you think? I'll be cutting right along this. Whew. I would say there's no going back, but I mean, there really is no going back because I've already cut the outer shaft. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Here goes something. May need to come from this angle. My battery might be getting a little low. It's got some juice left. Well, let's turn the shaft and see if I can cut some more. Alright, I was able to hook the steering wheel back up temporarily so I could turn it. Where are we at here? Gonna turn this like this. Get my arm out of the way. Touch everything with the grease. Great. Okay, now I'm back in action. Glasses, check. Trying to keep this parallel with the beam so it cuts straight. It's not going to be perfect, but it will be cut. The thinking is, once it gets cut enough, I should be able to just bend it and break it off. Or so I'm told. That looks good about there, sure. Wrap my arm around it. Might need to replace my battery. Let's see if it's starting to move at all. Thankfully it's not too hot. Does not seem to be bending yet, but it looks like I'm about halfway done, I would guess. We'll keep at it. That's pretty close, people. Well, I think that might be it. Oh, buddy. Now I'm in for it. Point of no return for sure now. Let's clean this up a little bit. That's nice. Now I have a nice shiny post sticking out of my steering. All right, So I'm going to double check the measurements. Thankfully I don't have to take this anywhere anytime soon because I don't have a way to steer it now. But yeah, I'll probably just do, again, like a round coupler, tighten it on there, weld it so it doesn't go anywhere, and then attach it to the steering box. Let's mock that up and see what it looks like. And I'm trying to get you the under dash view. And let's see how this turned out. So if this were to attach on the end, look at that. Oh, it's perfect. Actually, it gives me a little room to go up, depending on how much that coupler is going to add. Again, it shouldn't add anything if I'm doing the same diameter. That will just plug on there. Actually, let's spin this around, because all this is going to be somewhat tucked up under the dash. I mean, you're still going to be able to see it. I don't really care, because it's a rat rod, okay? So judge me not. All right, whoop. Let's see that again. That goes on there. That goes there. It's very nice. Very nice indeed. It's a little slippery. I think that's gonna work. I will have to, once I get a coupler, how to attach it. Interesting. Well, the attaching part isn't the problem. It's what do I do with this extra space now? You know, cover that up. I've seen some people use like an exhaust pipe just to kind of cover it. I may have to think of some kind of shell apparatus just so it'll cover the U-joint. And again, I'm probably going to have to put a bearing in there to keep it from wobbling around inside this. And of course, tighten this shaft on the steering box, because it does have a clamp on the bottom, it's just not tight. So once I attach that, clamp it down, that will be tight. And then I'll have to also probably make some kind of mount, either for this, like to keep it from moving around, definitely to here, because I don't think just the U-bolt is going to keep everything in one place. We don't want any, you know, funny business shifting around. Nobody wants shifty steering. Alright, now I need to order some couplers. Well, here she is mocked up. I gotta get the, actually, let's put that up slightly. Yeah, more like that. Have to get the coupler. Where are you? There you go. Coupler there, bearing inside the outer shaft tube. And then this part will be up behind the dash, kind of out. You'll still be able to see it, but I'm thinking maybe black plastic or something to cover that up. And then I've got to get the shaft here to get my steering wheel mounted on it. But work in progress. That's it for now, and stay tuned. More to follow.